So this morning, we're going to speak from one verse from Galatians chapter 1. This is Paul writing a letter to the people at the church in Galatia. And I'm trying not to, it may come across as a little bit youth groupy. That's probably good. I'm trying to shake the rust off a little bit. But also, biblical truth is biblical truth. So I think it'll be okay. Let's start by just reading the verse. Am I now seeking human approval or God's approval? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still pleasing people, I would not be a servant of Christ. I'm going to read it again, and like 6 more times today. Am I now seeking human approval or God's approval? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still pleasing people, I would not be a servant of Christ. Would not be. This verse is a little bit emotional and convicting for me because it's pretty definitive sounding. If I were still pleasing people, I would not be a servant of Christ. I know we like to think of Paul as a guy, well, probably you too, but the Apostle Paul is a guy who was nearly perfect in terms of his faith and advocacy, and that's just not true. I mean, he says it's not true, but we think of him, St. Paul. Can I just do air quotes? I'm really sorry. I try not to do that, especially if one hand is busy and you just got the front quotes. I'm sorry. I'm just not a believer in it. You feel free to use that as an expression. So here's Paul saying, if I were still pleasing people, I would not be a servant of Christ. And yet, logically, rationally, because he was a human being, that still came up for him sometimes. It was still an issue for him. And he's challenging the people in Galatia to recognize the importance of who it is that we're trying to please. Now, let me ask you, and we're going to do a little bit of interactivity, but I want to talk for a minute about what pleases people. Now, I went to high school in the 80s, and the 80s, as much as any decade, especially the second half of the 80s, had its own distinct style and vibe and weirdness. In fact, I want to show you one of the things that we did a lot, that I did. I didn't wear socks from like 1985 to 1987 because Don Johnson didn't wear socks, and neither was I, darn it. I had this one pair of K-Swiss shoes, the white canvas ones, they were awesome, that smelled so bad from wearing them without socks. I would wear them to school, I would come home, I would take them off, I would take the screen off my bedroom window, throw them out into the bushes and let them air out for like 2 weeks, and then go retrieve them and wear them one day and do the same thing. But I wasn't going to be wearing socks because, Don Johnson didn't wear socks. Now I realize I'm much more like Zito or Switek than I was Crockett or Tubbs, but I was the guy, should have been the guy in the van, not the guy doing all the fun undercover stuff. So pegging your pants was the thing. So I don't know if you, how many of you were big pants peggers, but
the 50s also.
Yeah?
High pants? Oh, yeah.
Steve
pegged his pants.
In the 50s or the 80s?
Both.
Not 80s.
Not 80s.
So it was the tuck and fold over and then roll it up a little.
Yeah.
And then if they wouldn't stay, sometimes at this point I would put a piece of tape right here and then roll it so, so it looked like how it was supposed to look, but, was secure. Do you remember that time? Excuse me for a moment, I'll just talk to my dad for a second. Remember that time that you took me and Danny to a boat show?
Yeah.
And I made him borrow some of my Miami Vice clothes?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there were going to be boats there like there were boats on Miami Vice,
Right.
and I wanted to be dressed appropriately. The white leather loafers with the tassels with no socks? Yeah. At the time, I also had hair. It got long in the 90s, but in the 80s, I did this thing. I wanted it to, I don't know, it's hard to imagine, but I like to stand up like this. Not like the flat top, but just sort of spiky. And so I would shower and then gel, and then blow dry, and then mousse, and then hairspray.
I don't understand why Angie was so attracted to you.
Oh, no, that was much later that I met Angie, and also Adam likes to say that Angie is the only woman in America not even remotely attracted to her husband. So, and she'll deny that, but it's always kind of half-hearted, like, that's not true. And she doesn't think I'm funny. That's all I got. I mean, I've given up trying to figure it out because we've been married 18 years and she still seems to like me. But I just don't get what the attraction was then. I mean, unless I just called to her. It's powerful facial hair. My sideburns and I have been together for 22 years. So they were a pre-existing condition when she met me, so they stayed. Anyway, a little bit of interactivity. Fads, things that were big. Some of you are older than me, some of you are younger than me. Things that, like in high school, that were super cool that now you look back and hope there's no pictures of. Anybody have any of those things? I'm really asking. Ditto? Oh, yeah. Nice.
What are dittos?
Pants.
Oh,
They're paying me to sell it.
angel flag.
Oh, yeah? All right. Anybody else have one?
What's that? Jean jackets are cool, but they're still cool.
The whole suit.
They are still cool.
Like mullets.
I had a denim trench coat, man.
That's right.
No. But I took bleach because I was super. Yes, Mom.
When I was in school, we had a weird, I just flashed on this weird fad that we would wear our boyfriend's class ring, and of course too big, and we'd wrap that fuzzy
Yarn.
Angora
Or yarn.
around the ring, and then it would get like all dirty, and then you have to take it off and put a new
Did you
one.
put nail
Wait a minute.
polish on it?
Are you
Yeah.
saying you had a boyfriend
Oh, yeah.
before Dad?
Really? Really? I'm so sorry, Dave.
It's just crumbling. And I had the denim trench, and then I took a Q-tip and dipped it in bleach and wrote on the back, because my youth group was awesome, and I wrote that Jesus Christ was the same yesterday, today. No, the way that people like on the back of my denim jacket, the way that school, because I love to be like. And then I would make myself wear it a couple times, and then at break, I'd be like, all right, I continue. I made my statement. All right, because I wanted to take my stand, but I also still wanted to please people. There were other 80s fads, paint splattered clothes, breakdancing, parachute pants. Those were awesome, with just a lot of unnecessary zippers.
Cavaricci's.
Nice. I actually think these shoes would have still been okay
Yeah, that's the 60s
in
too.
high school. I had some green ones like this in high school. And so did Crazy George. I went to an A's game one time, and he was wearing the same shoes as me. I was very excited. Crazy George. He was at my friend Steven's bar mitzvah.
Do you hold your shoes up?
What?
Do you hold your shoes up for people in the back?
No, but I can do this. It'll just take a minute. It doesn't do it unless we got time.
Hey,
Yeah.
Linnell just remembered MC Hammer pants.
Those were big, and I will tell you this. Adam has a pair.
Yeah.
He also wore them in a skit to be a genie. They worked pretty well for that too. He had this like big, rubber plastic bin tub, big clamp-on lid that in college he had all these costumes in. And he was going through it one time. He was looking for his nun costume. Because he was going to be the Nuninator in a skit, and the gargoyles, and the yardstick, and the nun costume. But he's pulling stuff out, you know, old leather pilot helmet with the goggles, genie pants, this stuff. Yeah, it was awesome. I think he still has that hidden somewhere. I should go break into his house. All right, but my all-time very favorite, famous for 1 second guy, because he was pleased people for 12 seconds.
Nice.
Iced tea.
Yo, VIP, Vanilla Ice.
Oh,
You ever,
Oh, stop, collaborate and listen. Grabs a hold of me tightly, flow like a hawk.
Was your hair like that?
Never. Never.
I mean the top.
No, it wasn't quite that coiffed. My hair, the hair that I had used to go in like 6 different directions.
do you have any pictures?
Somewhere, yeah. I'll bring one for you. I was sort of a late addition to the lineup today, so I actually spent more time on what I was going to say instead of PowerPoint. I apologize for that. It's a little weak today. No subliminal messages at all. Boring over there. So vanilla. Oh man, and this is what's very exciting. If you please turn in the Book of Ice to chapter 3. This is the unauthorized biography of Vanilla Ice, published in 1991. I bought it at a Toys R Us in Escondido, California. It was marked down from $2.95 down to 98 cents, and I paid 49 cents for it, which I figured at most was a penny per joke. Best 49 cents I've ever spent. Let me just read you a couple of things from the Vanilla Ice. Hip hop's hottest new star. The Elvis of rap. How did he get his stage name? And this may surprise you, because anybody know his real name? Robert Vanley. Very nice. Got a stage name just from my complexion, he explains. Huh. It's shocking to me. However, when asked if he enjoys being the model for the future of rap, Vanilla Ice spurns such titles. Hey man, I don't know about that, he argues. I'm not starting any wave. So it seems for all his star status, Ice is just a homeboy at heart. A homeboy with goals and a future in rap music. And one more. On what, in chapter 10, the Iceman's most quotable quotes. On what makes him a standout rapper. I'm 100% original, and that's what got me here. My rap music is more understandable, slower. It tells a story. You can write a book on each of my thoughts. A serious. We just won't mention the, sampling of David Bowie in the 100% original music. You ever hear that? Like, you hear that song start, like, oh sweet, Ice Ice Baby, and then it turns out to be Under Pressure. Oh, disappointment. Although David Bowie, I believe, stole that little loop from Stevie Wonder. So don't forget about that. Yeah. He's one of my all-time favorites. There's a guy who was incredibly popular. I mean, crazy popular for this long, right? He was what pleased people for a week and a half in the fall of 1990. Maybe it's more than a week and a half. And I know he's got his own home improvement show now. I haven't actually caught any episodes of that. But yeah, you know what he's doing? Is he cutting parts of himself off? You missing any fingers yet? Well, it's good that he was able to find a new career, since the other one didn't work out like he had planned, maybe. Well, with the one song and everything. Here's a guy that was absolutely what pleased people for a very short amount of time. Because what pleases people changes. What makes you popular or liked or well respected. I'm not saying that, strong personal character values, that make you a likable person, you're honest or you're diligent or you're considerate and kind. I mean, those kind of things endear you to people. But in terms of really pleasing people, being what gets people's attention, what does that changes all the time. I'm not wearing parachute pants. They're not pegged. I am wearing the Chuck Taylors, but they're kind of timeless. All right. Fads change. One of my goals in life actually is to start a fad. The closest I ever came was I tried this one where I took dental floss and I had a string of it out and then wore the floss dispenser like a pendant on a necklace. And that way sometimes you go like, oh, I have something stuck in my teeth. And you like that. And I did get 3 other guys at Diablo Valley College to start wearing dental floss as a functional accessory. But that was the closest it ever came. I tried Band-Aids on clothes, I tried a few other ones. So far, that's the best. But I'm gonna keep trying. Someday. And what pleases God? The things that please God are the same things that pleased Him yesterday and 100 years ago and 1,000 years ago and 1,000 years from now. You can spend all of your energy trying to figure out what is going to please people, and you're still going to be wrong a lot of the time. And I find, this may not be the case for you, I find the things that I do sometimes that I think will please people are just for imaginary people. There aren't actual people evaluating and judging me on those things. I want to make sure I used to really enjoy being more rebellious. In fact, for a long time in my wallet, I carried around one of those tags that I tore off a mattress. Do not remove under penalty of law except by consumer. Now, I wasn't going to eat it. I kept it in my wallet just as evidence of how I was sort of a rebel with that. But I don't even have that in my wallet anymore. Just so you know. The things that please people change. The things that please God stay the same. Can you just give me some things that please God? You don't have to raise your hand. Just actually say things out loud. Obedience.
Faithfulness.
Facebook?
Yeah. Faithfulness.
Oh, faithfulness.
Yeah, he's always mentioned on Facebook.
True. Anybody else things that please God? It's not like a text. Acknowledge. Is that what you said? Acknowledgement. Yeah, that's.
Praising Him.
Yeah.
Trust.
Yeah.
Belief.
Yeah.
Sharing your
Sacrifice.
faith.
Yes. Yes.
Discipline.
Yeah. I don't like that one, but yes.
Thankfulness.
Yeah. Definitely. Let's read this verse again, please. Am I now seeking human approval or God's approval? Am I trying to please people? If I were still pleasing people, I would not be a servant of Christ? Would it not be? That makes sense. I understand it. I believe it. And yet, I still find myself trying to please people some of the time. Probably way too often. What makes us keep trying to please people? What is the barrier for us? Why don't we try to please God all of the time? And for me, I'm going to just share a little bit about what I think those obstacles are for me, and maybe there's some of the same ones for you. The first one is that we like comfort. There are a few people who like comfort as much as I do, because, comfort is comfortable. This chair, I've had several cars that cost less than this wheelchair, because it is awesome and it is comfortable. Somehow, I'm noticing I did manage to spill coffee on both legs of my jeans before earlier this morning, and I did not bring backup pants. Foolish. Right? I like to be comfortable. I like to have a good chair. I like to have a car that I like. I like to be at the appropriate temperature for me, whatever that might be. Climate control set right there at 69 or 70. When Angie drives it, why is it at 75? How do you, what? She wants to be comfortable, because we like being comfortable. And pleasing people is easier sometimes. Sometimes all we have to do is be alone, and that's very comfortable. Because I'm not just talking about physical comfort, but emotional comfort and spiritual comfort and social comfort. We like to be around the same people, or be in the same sort of settings, or pray the same way that we always pray, or don't pray the same way we never pray. Because it's comfortable. Because that's what we're used to. I need you not to repeat what I'm about to say. Okay. I've noticed, I've learned, there are some things that I never realized how annoying they are until I see them in my kids. Things that they do, that I see them do, that drive me nuts, and then realize that I do that, and that's where they learn how to do that. That's my fault, and oh my goodness, I've been driving people crazy for 42 years. My son Michael, who is an exceptional human being, really, really likes his routines, likes things the way that he's used to them being, the foods he's used to eating, the schedule he's used to having. He likes that. So sometimes I make him do something else, because sometimes I feel like that. And I like things to be the way I want them to be, and I'm used to them being that. And I think sometimes following God, trying to please God, takes me out of those things. Takes me away from the way that I'm used to doing things. My schedule, my time, my timeline, my activities, my conversations, my interactions with strangers, whatever it might be. I'm used to doing them a certain way, and sometimes trying to please God means not doing them that way. And I don't like that, because it makes me uncomfortable. Because of course I'm supposed to be uncomfortable. Because that's what happens when Jesus shows up, right? He changes things. He disrupts things. He doesn't let it be the same way. That was a huge part of his frustration with the religious community when he was on earth, was they had their set way of doing things, and some of it was wrong, but that's the way they wanted to keep doing it, and he wanted to show them a different way. And it was extremely uncomfortable for them, because he was shattering their routines and traditions. And the second reason that I have struggled sometimes with trying to please God is fear. I want people to like me. As though that, Jesus died on the cross so I could be popular. I'm afraid of people looking at me weird or thinking weird things about me or putting myself out there too far to where I don't know what's going to happen. I don't like fear of the unknown. First time I really had that was last year in college, because I was coming up on the first part of my life that was unscripted. I made a choice about where to go to college, but it was still just going to school and I had my schedule and had my classes. And now I'm getting to the end of that, like, oh, this is the first time I don't know what's next. I knew what I was hoping was next, but I didn't know where and what that was going to look like, and that was scary. I moved home for a while, played a lot of Sega. Adam was in Germany, and he let me Sega sit for the summer. It was very kind of him. But it was sort of scary because I didn't know what was going to be next. And sometimes I think I don't do the things to please God because I'm afraid. I know how many times the Bible says to fear not. I know the confidence that I have in Jesus and who He is and the difference that He makes and who He is in the grand scheme of things. And the God of the universe, His Spirit dwells in me, and sometimes I'm still afraid because somebody might look at me weird. I've prayed in restaurants before with my eyes open, so people wouldn't know that I was praying because they might think that was a weird thing to do. You're an idiot. Who cares? Unless I'm going to be a super bad tipper, and if you are a pray before you eat kind of person, and you are a bad tipper, that's a problem, because you're hurting the rest of us. You're hurting the reputation of the kingdom of God, and I'm mostly serious about that. Don't do that. Just what are some other things that you think that we're afraid of that make us more inclined to seek human approval? Anybody? Fears that keep us from trying to seek God's approval.
Failing in front of other people.
Yeah.
Being rejected.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Not knowing enough to defend our position.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Because people have legitimate questions sometimes, and I don't always know the answers to them. And I spend a lot of their money going to Bible college, and I don't know the answers to those questions. And that's okay. But sometimes it feels like it's not going to. Yeah. All of that. I want to put myself out there. You understand, I'm not talking, when we're talking about God's approval, we're not talking about salvation or earning your way into heaven or earning God's love or favor. We're talking about doing things that please Him, living a life that is representative of who He is and what He's done in our lives. All right, I want to make sure that's real clear. All right? Just making sure that my grandma watching at home later. I'm not talking about salvation. I'm about living a life that honors God. The last thing that I think sometimes keeps me from trying trying to seek God's approval, living that life, is sometimes we just lack the information of how to do that. Sometimes we have the desire to want to live lives that please God and bring Him glory, but sometimes we honestly don't know how. We want to, and we have some understanding, but sometimes we lack information about how to live that kind of life. And this might be the most egregious of the reasons to not seek to live a life that pleases God, but it's also the most fixable. Pretty good dropping egregious, right? I had to look that one up. We need to have the information so that we can live that life that brings honor and glory to God. And that's why we're here today, in part, is to learn more about those things, how that life is supposed to look. It's why we put the time into our own relationships with God, why we talk to Him, why we read His Word, so that we'll have the information so that we can live a life that is pleasing to Him and not one that's focused on pleasing people. And it's also why we have each other, because I have a piece of that information, and you have a piece of that information. And Trek groups are not the only way to share that information, but they're a great way to share it. I mean, I'm hoping that there's other conversations going on, but that's a great way. And we learn some of those things from each other, and we challenge each other, and there's accountability, and there's purpose, and there's a life that more and more and more is one that strives, that seeks to win God's approval instead of the approval of people. And sometimes we get it wrong, but we need to have that information so that we can seek to do it right. If you've been with me, well, we moved here almost 6 years ago. Moved to Riverbank from lovely Santa Cruz, California. Last night I was criticizing Angie for being the first one to suggest such a move because it was hot, and she just was unwilling to live in our minivan so that we could stay in Santa Cruz. I don't really know why that was problematic for her. We could have made a go of it if we just lived in the van. It's big enough. Come on. We could just go all raw vegan food. We didn't have to have a stove. It would have been awesome. I mean, I would have died from the lack of bacon and baked goods, but, you know, we could have made a go of it for a while. Sorry, man.
I'm saying you can still eat stuff.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's just you can't eat animals.
Not if you go that full-on raw, nothing over 128 degrees or whatever. We got here. I just was limping a little, and then started using a cane. My back was messed up, my legs were getting more problematic. And then I had a couple of back surgeries during one of them during Game 3 of the 2012 World Series. Came home, and I'd already gotten a wheelchair, and I was using that sort of when we went big places. And then after the surgeries, I was still able to use the walker in my house. It was 30 steps from my bed. It is 30 from my bed to where my chair was in the living room. I could do that in the walker. Anything more than that, I was using the wheelchair. Still a significant rate of decline in terms of overall function. Back hurt more, legs worked less. Had another surgery earlier this year, had another one after that. And, you know, now I feel amazing. I feel so good. My legs just won't hold me up. I'm doing physical therapy with the signals that go from the brain down the spinal cord. So some of the muscle groups in my legs are just not getting that signal because it's spinal cord damage. And so we're trying to see if we can build up the other muscle groups enough to be able to compensate for that, but it's really, really unlikely. I'm always going to be open to supernatural healing, but I think it's unlikely at this point that barring that, I'll just be strolling around all the time. You know, I may be able to stand up and pivot, take a couple steps with the walker, which would be huge, but you know, for now, none of that. So it's just these last 5 months that I've been unable to stand. And I knew that people that were legit paraplegics, quadriplegics, that was a whole different ballgame. And I spent a couple weeks at this rehab hospital because not just to develop muscles and try to get stronger, but I had a lot of things to learn about living life being unable to stand up that I just had never thought about before. Here's a fun game. Next time you go to the bathroom, try to get your pants back up without standing. I'd never thought about it. It's tricky. There's a lot of rocking back and forth involved, and sliding. It's tricky. And there's a lot of that stuff. I couldn't reach the stuff on the top shelf or the bottom shelf now. My chair is just this much too wide to get into my closet. You know, so I have my little grabber thing. Reach in and try to get the shirt that I mean to, or get third shorts that are down on the shelf and just, sorry, Angie. And I crash into stuff in my house a lot and just apologize to my landlord. He doesn't hear them, but he will when he does the inspection. Sorry, Jeff. A lot of sorry Jeffs at my house lately. But I had a lot of information to learn. How to get dressed without being able to stand up. How to get in and out of the car without being able to stand. How to do a lot of stuff without being able to stand. And I had a lot of things I had to learn so that I can live the life that I need to live. So that I can be the person that God has called and created me to be. And tangent off that even just a little bit more. I know He knows me. I know He loves me. I know He's able to heal. And I'm still in the chair. And the only thing that I can conclude from that is that for now, I can serve Him better from the chair than out of it. Fine. I'm good with that. If that's what He's got for me, I am down. But I need to learn some things so I can get out of my house and do some things and interact with some people and be who He wants me to be. Because it required some information that I didn't have. Sometimes living the life that we need to live requires information that we don't have. I'm going to read this verse one more time. Am I now seeking human approval or God's approval? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still pleasing people, I would not be a servant of Christ. I want to be a servant of Christ. He is the only one worth following, the only one worth serving. Through Him we serve other people, but it's Him that we serve. I want to be that man, but I can't do it if I'm handicapped by fear, if I'm stuck in what's only comfortable to me right now, and I can't do it if I don't know what to do. I will sometimes still try to please people, even the imaginary ones who are not actually looking at my table when I pray at a restaurant. And if they do see me, couldn't possibly care about them. I'm still going to care about them every once in a while, or someone like them. But man, I want to strive, I want to seek God's approval in my life. I want to be that kind of person. And we don't do a lot of, Adam likes to leave things kind of there, but just to do something different. That's something that we all need to do in our lives, is to make that choice, that commitment, that we want to be someone who seeks to please God. seeks to. That gives, there's failure. Of course there is. We're still human. But I want to seek to please God way more than I seek to please people. And I want you to make that same choice. And I want to encourage and challenge you to think about that. We're not doing a raise your hands thing. We're just, that would be a little too youth groupy. But I want to challenge you. Think this through. Go home and read this verse again. Read it in other versions. Whatever, so that it's something that is on your mind this week. And seek to please God. And the lives of ourselves and the people around us will be different. Will be. God, I want to be someone who seeks to please you. Every time. Thanks for grace and forgiveness, but I don't want to take advantage of those. I don't want to need that. I want to be someone who gets it right, who seeks to please you and doesn't seek to please people. Human approval is passing and eternally irrelevant. I pray for all of my friends in this room. All of us that you brought, and I really do believe that you brought us together this morning. Help us to be a group, a family, a church who collectively seeks to please you and not you. Lead us, call us, guide us, convict us, inspire us, please, so that we can be that kind of people. God, thanks also for an amazing pastor who is a man of incredible character and genuinely, God, seeks to please you with his life. Bless the Lima family today. They needed a day, and help them to have it, to be the day that they needed. Bless them a lot. Thanks for being with us this morning. Jesus. Okay, so you are dismissed. Please feel free to talk amongst yourselves.